Good afternoon. I'm Kim, and welcome back to Golden Acres, which is snowy white acres right now. So this is January 2nd, 2022, and it is the first snowfall not only of the year, but of the season. So we were a high of 71 on Christmas Eve, and now it is a high of 10 today. So it's been quite the swing back down. So I figured I'd walk you guys around the homestead and see the snow. Hey, Thea, you crazy. Come here, dog. Okay, or not. We're from up north, so I love the winter. I actually love season change. I wouldn't want to live like up in Alaska where all you had was snow, and I wouldn't want to live in Florida where all it was like summer temps. I love season change. I love the snow. Or have a very pretty day. It's cold, but it's wind still, so it's not too bad. I love ponds on a snowy day, especially when you get just a little bit of snow so you can still see the grass through it. Ponds are just so sparkly. Even for my last video, we did get a couple of things done. Andrew and the boys did get the barn door of the hay barn back on its track. And then they had to dig out some of the dirt. That way it would actually slide because it was built up. So that's over here. I'm slow walking in the snow. But this door moves now. We've also started getting wood off our wood pile. We got the wood stove up and running. I cooked on it last night. I'll have a video out on it a little bit later. Walk over here where we have our leaf mold pile set up and show you how protected it is from the elements. So here's where the snow is. Stops here. And there's a little bit of snow in there. So it gets some water from that and some rain. But for the most part, there's not a lot of snow in there. It was a north wind. And this little lean-to is on the south side. So spring, when it's warming up, should bring a little bit more rain into this area. But really, it's not going to get downpour and beaten down, which would cause it to become anaerobic or the oxygen depleted, because you need the fungus to have a good amount of oxygen. We go over here, getting a little bit deeper, and we'll go walk over to the greenhouse, and I can show you that my broccoli froze. Granted, they were vaulted and tall and leggy because of how hot the fall was. But I have very, very frozen broccoli today. What's awesome about the greenhouse is that it's warm. So actually, these didn't do too bad. They're thawed. I came in here last night while it was dark, and they were definitely hard to the touch. Everything, granted, it's wilting. Like, you can see that there's damage, but I thought they'd be way mushier than they are. spinach still there. I didn't get harvested. Some more spinach. It's a little mushy, but not really bad. Head back outside and show you the scenery. So of course out there is our neighbor's pasture, which is much more untouched by little boy footprints than ours. Usually their cows come up morning and evening when we see them, but they must have moved them because I don't see any, and I haven't seen any for a couple of days. Come and say hi, Thea. Thea. Our rambunctious dog. She doesn't like to sit still. She's a hunting breed. Thea. So she kind of does her own thing. Typical hunting breed behavior. She thinks if she can see you, she's with you, and that calling her is useless. My dad's hunting dogs were that way. My hunting dogs have been that way. They're pretty a loyal breed. She is a Kemmer, Blackmouth, and Plot cur mix. So her parents hunted boar. She has never been hunting outside of her chasing things on her own because she is a good sniffer. But we got her shortly after we got married. We moved in our first rental house, and I was pregnant. So she kept me company and kept me active with my first pregnancy because we were in town, so I had to walk her multiple times a day, and we would go like yard sailing together to get her socialized. So she's good socialized. She's decent on the leash. Most hunting dogs try to pull, but she's decent on the leash. Our first son came early, so there was a kind of shock there where the dogs were a little bit on their own. We were 5 hours away from home in a slightly dramatic but near parents, so okay situation, and in a better hospital for a 33-weeker to be born. But those early training days are super, super important, and those 2 weeks from when he was born, and then I had 3 months of pretty bad postpartum anxiety. Not depression, I had anxiety. Was just less training. They were loved on and stuff. We still snuggled. But she didn't get trained for, probably a good 4 months when she was still in that puppy stage, especially that like 9 months to a year. She just got fed, got played fetch with a little bit, and that's about it. So she's a little bit more of an ornery dog for that reason. She got a little spoiled when we were going through that stage of life. I think I'm gonna skip ahead and walk back to the back of the pond and go show you back there at the edge of our property. We have lots of trees that still have leaves on them. And I was kind of surprised after the couple days of wind we had with this extreme temperature change. Little cabin is pretty well burnt up. It needs pulled down. But it's far enough that the kids aren't out here that we don't worry about it too much right now. The kids don't walk out here by themselves. And they've only been out here, only the oldest has been out here once. Just past the pond dam is where our property lines ends and the neighbors begins. A couple trees that fell down out here. Have to clean up at some point. Thea, you finding anything? Some of you might have noticed that Thea's tail is docked. That was not done while she was a puppy. She got in a fight with a groundhog and it bit her tail and it got infected. And her tail is so skinny, and she had an actually abnormally long tail. It was a whip and it hurt. But her tail was so skinny, especially there at the end, that the infection one traveled right up. And those things just never heal because there's not enough skin to heal around where the infection is, that it keeps getting reinfected. So she had to go to the vet and get her tail shortened to prevent infection. I remember being pretty well against docking tails, but now after going through that with Thea, I was like, okay, if it's a breed with a teeny tiny tail, which causes extreme problems, I can kind of see the argument. Obviously, it's not guaranteed that you get infection, but it was pretty terrible. And we didn't realize she had an infection until she bit the end of her tail off. And it was, terrible. Because she kept licking it raw. And we're like, Chica, if you don't stop, your tail will never heal. Well, she didn't stop, so we bandaged it. Right? We put, cleaned it up a little peroxide, put a little medicine on it, clean it up. Well, she then bothered her so much that she actually chewed her own tail off. Because also, her tail being so little and so skinny there at the end, we had no pus, no oozing, just kind of raw skin that she kept licking. I'm not pro-docking. I just can understand the argument because of how terrible that situation was for her. It's just sad. But of course, not all dogs are in an infection. Like, there's absolutely no great reason to do it. It was bad and it was hard. And she was locked in the house for healing, which is why our other dog doesn't like being locked up, which is why now she doesn't like being locked up. And it was just such a hard infection to catch because of where it was and because of how technically small it was. Her tail was so skinny that it actually wasn't a very big infection. It was just a very detrimental one. All the vegetation is dead. So it's now a good time to get a look at the grapevine. It's got growing up this way a little weird. So we'll heavily prune. I'm going to talk to the neighbor girls and see what they suggest and also see what they want to do. Because one of them, so this is our grapevine here, no matter what. Then there's a grapevine here that is literally on the property line. And in Missouri, property lines and fences are 50-50. So technically, that grapevine is 50-50. And then, obviously, that grapevine is on their side. And that one actually goes up into their trees. But some of these fresher, newer branches I'm going to prune. And then I'm going to try to re-root and get some more grapevines out here. And I would like to take up this area, which right now you can see where the Toro ran because they were sledding yesterday. Because we don't have a great hill for sledding because all the hills go to a pond or railroad tracks. So they are getting pulled along. But I'd like to get some cuttings and start a grapevine line here. We just can't go too far down because our neighbors have gates over here for their horses. So they don't have an easement. But we like to be neighborly and we get along. They're great neighbors. So they come up here to use these gates, even though technically they could go through several gates and go through their different paddocks. But we don't care. We get along and we like to be neighborly. There's no reason they can't use this driveway. It's just a long driveway. This paddock is where we're going to put the pigs. And then over here, this paddock down here, we're debating. But we are thinking of starting a you-pick strawberry patch. My husband and I worked at a berry farm in high school. He was my manager. We didn't start dating until after we graduated. But I worked there at 14 and 15, and he was a manager, so he worked there in the summer until he graduated high school. And he was family friends with the owners. But we're thinking of having a you-pick strawberry patch. And you would have parking here. Not in front of the gates, but along here. And then you would have a strawberry patch here. So we're thinking about turning this area into strawberries. Partially because it's something we both have experience in, and partially because it's something we both enjoyed. We enjoyed the strawberries. They were a fun crop to do. They're fairly easy, just a short season. And we actually have mentors, which is most important. The people we worked for, family, friends, for my husband's family, but also we got along great. My sister had classes with the owner because he worked at the school part-time for a long time, and his family, the owner's family, and my parents got along too. They weren't best friends. They lived on the other side of the county, basically, so it was quite a bit of a distance. Dale was actually surprised that they drove me out there to work at 14 and 15, except my dad was like, this is the best thing for you in the world. He loved that I wanted to work out there. He was proud of me for taking initiative. So Dad said he didn't care if he spent more in gas than I made, that he was more than willing to drive me out there all summer. Now I only stayed through strawberry season, so there's a bad couple years. It was about 3 weeks long instead of more like 5 to 6, because they had different varieties, so they matured at different times. But it was good. It was a good time, and they're more than willing to help us out throughout that process of getting built up. And they're actually retiring, so we might be able to buy equipment off them to make that successful, which is cool because they had something called a picker, which is where 4 people laid down to pick strawberries, and it was motorized, and my father-in-law built it. So there'd be some nostalgia there too, getting something that my father-in-law made, and my husband would have helped with him. So we're excited to look at that option here in the next few years. It would take time to build up, but that's something that we're thinking about right now. Alright, this is where I'm going to sign off. It's pretty chilly, and gotta get inside before my nose gets too cold. So if you like what we're doing, hit that like button. If you want to keep up with us, subscribe. And the best thing you can do is share us on your social media. Thanks. God bless.